we're going to talk about our 5, 4, 3, 2, 1 technique. And what I like about that is that it's a technique that we can use wherever we are. If we're at the doctor's office, if we're at Costco, if we're at the golf course, if we're at work, if we're on the side of the road stuck at a scene for a good amount of time and find our heads going a little bit on the squirrely side, we can use it to bring ourselves back. So I'm going to create 2 videos. This one is the rundown of how it works, where to use it, how to use it, and so on. And then I'll create a second video that's the actual walkthrough so that you can listen to it, practice it. Yes, you need to practice. It's just like riding the bike. I can give you the technique, the theory behind it as much as I want, but until you get out there, put your seat or your butt on that seat and start pushing those pedals, you're not going to learn how to do it. So if you practice it, again, in very low-key situations, whether it be in the morning when you wake up, after work when you want to wind down, when you go to the grocery store and start practice using it in your day-to-day activities, it'll become so much more natural and so much more easier for you to transition it when you need it. So what are we going to do? Well, first thing, we're going to have our breath work match whichever number we're on. So for example, 5. We're going to start with 5 deep breaths. Where do we breathe? Do we put up our shoulders? No. And why? Because again, the majority of that breath is in the top portion of our lungs. We're not activating our diaphragm, which means that we're essentially supporting a state of stress versus diminishing that state of stress. So what we want to do is we want to focus on bringing our breath down to the bottom of our lungs like we're filling a glass. And I'm not going to be picky. This is a you thing. It's up to you. So you can either breathe in through your nose, out through your mouth if you want. I suggest breathing in through your nose, but that's a whole nother tangent. Ultimately, just breathe. Y'all know how to do it. You've been doing it for a day or 2. Otherwise, we'd have bigger problems. And we'll go from there. So again, 5 deep breaths. So you're going to bring it in, deep breath in. See how I took a deep breath in? My shoulders went up slightly as my lungs got filled all the way up to the top. But the majority of that deep breath went into my tummy area and my gut. What it does is it engages the diaphragm. The more that we engage the diaphragm, the more our body actually sends a signal up to our brain saying, it's okay. Parasympathetic nervous system turns on. It's like flipping a switch, and it helps bring you down. It's literally a difference between whether or not your body is agreeing with turning on the parasympathetic, the relaxation, the recovery mode of our autonomic nervous system, or if it's saying, nope, I disagree, or we're breathing up in our chest and we're sending the signals of stress that keeps us in the fight or flight, right? So you can see how you breathe can make a huge difference. While we're doing this, I want you to know that it doesn't matter if your eyes are open or closed. Focus on a point. So I still have my peripheral vision. I still have my wits about me, but I'm not getting distracted at the same time. So I'll focus on that point and take my 5 deep breaths. Once I'm done my 5 deep breaths, then I'll be like, okay, now I need to find 5 things to look for. I personally suggest looking for things that maybe you wouldn't normally notice unless you were trying. What's the point of that? Well, if we go out of our way to find things that we wouldn't normally notice, it means that we're pulling ourselves more into the present. So, for example, if your police truck or your fire truck or your ambulance, whatever, is immediately in front of you, saying, oh, my police truck. You're like, no, dude, that one's obvious. Find something else. looking at the trees, looking at, different bugs on the ground. If you're outside, whether the ants or whatever, crawling around, looking for birds in the sky. What I love is if you hear a bird, trying to find it in the trees. Look at the trees, but then focus on an individual leaf. Maybe it's rustling in the wind. You get the point. You're going outside of yourself. So often we scan and we're looking for threats, but we're also missing out on so much more. Find something like that, okay? 5 things that you can see. Challenge yourself, bring yourself into the moment. 4 more deep breaths. And then we're gonna go for 4 things that we can hear. So right now, as I sit in my office, I can hear my cat, her little nails on my desk. I can hear my computer doing its thing. I can hear the furnace doing its thing. And I can hear a truck outside. Okay? So I'm going out of my way to focus on the residual noise in the background, bringing myself to now. And it's neat because as you do that, you can even picture what you're listening to. Then 3 more deep breaths. After that's done, what are we going to move on to? 3 things that we can feel. Well, guess what? I can feel my arm on my desk. I can feel my hat on my head. I can feel my butt in this chair. I can feel that it's a little bit cool in this room. There's things that we touch every day. Our shirt on our back, my wallet in my back pocket. Like, it doesn't matter. It's so simple. But what it does is it brings us to the now. What can you feel here and now? After that, go back to 2 things that I can smell. Food, flowers, coffee. You got this. Last one more super deep breath. Let it all out. And then this is the tough one. I want you to think about one thing that you're proud about today. So whether it's you taking a shower, you getting up when your alarm clock first went off, it could be you saving the world. It could be big, small, or anywhere in between. I want you to think about something that you've done that you are proud of. We do not give ourselves the nod enough. This is your opportunity to do so. Focus on that. Guess what? Your 5, 4, 3, 2, 1 technique is done. And in theory, if you use this on a regular basis, on the road, in your regular life, it helps you bring you back to now. It helps separate you from what has happened. It helps detach you from the worrying of what might happen, and instead you're in the what's happening now. So that's the 5, 4, 3, 2, 1 technique. If you want, check out our walkthrough of this. Sorry, you're stuck with me again, and you can practice how to actually use it in real time. Check out part 2 for the actual walkthrough of the exercise.